Shall we start? Yes, you're ready? Let's put it that way. So good evening, everyone. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Virginie Molly. I'm the new attaché or head of the scientific department office in the French consulate in Los Angeles. And first of all, I would like to thank, I can't see her, but Julie Ripoll, which organized this event for Alliance Française. And also, obviously, the Scripps Institution of Oceanography for hosting here us tonight. So, the star of the evening is obviously Jean-Louis Etienne, our famous French explorator, which dedicated his life to polar exploration. And Jean-Louis will tell us a lot about it in a minute, and his new project also, the Polar Pod. And after that, we will have a panel discussion with Lenain here, and Siegelman, and I forgot again, but they work on oceanography. And and then after that, we will conclude the evening, and I hope you enjoy it. And I see that lots of kids are here tonight, which is really a nice thing to see. Thank you, and Jean-Louis, it's your time. I give you the floor.
Je viens de manger quelque chose. So here I'm Jean-Louis Etienne. I am a hero. I did many polar expeditions. I started in '79, Greenland, and then I went to the North Pole in '86, solo. It was a long way. At that time there was no telephone, no GPS, nothing. I was traveling with the sun, and I arrived at the North Pole. There is nothing on the pole. Because the ice drift. You know, you put the French flag, and 2 hours after it's not at pole. And then I was expecting something. When you were at the pole, maybe nothing. So when I decided I am at the pole, you know, it was a wonderful day. After 63 days pulling the sledge, and I decided that's really my life. I'm a medical doctor. I was in terms of surgery, and I was invited as a doctor doing at the beginning expeditions. And I decided now I will organize polar expeditions. And then on the way to the pole, I crossed Will Steger, it's an American, who goes to the North Pole by dog sled with the team. He tried to prove that Speary reached the pole. That's the question always. And I was in a tent, and what? Polar pod. And then, no, not polar pod, it was dogs. So I went out of my tent and jumped on the ice pressure ridges, and I saw Will and the dogs with 6 people, and Will saw somebody from the ice coming through. And we said, yes, can we speak tomorrow? Yes, I followed the track. And Will said, are you ready to think about to cross Antarctica? I said, I'm okay, we'll finish with the North Pole and we will see. And then we started to talk about that, and we organized a Trans-Antarctica expedition in 89-90. And well, at the time it was Victor Boyarsky from USSR, the Chinese from always. What happened in 89 was the end of the Russian USSR. And I was I got information with the radio. I had no telephone, but you get nothing by your radio. And I catch a sound, yeah, Victor, your country is changing. And he came in my tent. What's happened now? So I gave it information about the end of the USSR. And December 10, Dalai Lama became Peace Nobel Prize. And the China was not happy at all, but we never spoke about politics. And I think we succeeded because we didn't speak the same language. And then I built this vessel, special one, Antarctica. Now it's named Tara. And it's a very round, you know, in case of ice pressure, it's pop up, you know. So we crossed the Arctic Ocean, and merci. Oui, François. And this ship is designed to, you know, to drift and cross the Arctic Ocean, pushing by the ice drift. What is 10 meters wide? I mean, it's very round. And I had this vessel for 10 years. And then I organized the Polar Observer. I drifted 4 months from the North Pole, and I was alone. And I had a lot of scientific equipment. And for 4 months, I did many experimentations. I'm not a scientist, you know, but I can do many things. I'm volunteer always. And then I crossed the North Pole with balloon. That's the most dangerous expedition I did. Very dangerous. When you are in the air, vous risquez de tomber. Yeah. And then it was in 2010, and then with Elsa, she is directress of all the expeditions, we say, now what can we do? And we decide to come here in San Diego. I remember in a car from where we live in the south of France to Toulouse. It said, yeah. And Elsa started to look at it. There is a school. There is a French school in San Diego. And said, yeah, the script is there and the flip is here. Now we go to the San Diego. So we decided to come with San Diego. And we arrive here with the idea of the Polar Pod project. Polar Pod is a drifting station to study the Southern Ocean. And the Southern Ocean is the ocean which surrounds Antarctica. And the Earth climate volcanic component, the largest oceanic carbon sink, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and is the largest data gap of the global ocean because all the camping there, the scientists, they go there during the summer. And the question is, well, tu en parleras après du carbone. Yeah, it's the largest oceanic carbon, alors je dis, the largest oceanic carbon sink on the planet. By its surface. Other thing is the waves, you know, when they put water, dissolve, the gravity capture more air in the water, and the CO2 dissolve much more in the cold water. So it's a huge surface of cold water. That's why it's probably capture 50% of the CO2 dissolved in the global ocean. And the ACC, this current turn around, and he connects the 3 oceans, and is an engine, a very strong engine of the ocean circulation. And due to the rim, is known during the summer. And it's tremendous undersurvey. And the question was, what kind of vessel can stay on this in the Roland 050, Furious 50, much more, Furious 50. Comment on peut rester dans les Furious 50 in a safe and comfortable situation? And thinking about that, we have been inspired by the flip. You know what the flip is anyway. It's better, it's good to have an idea. Ça, c'est le film de Luc Lenain qui est là, qui m'a donné ce. Il en parlera tout à l'heure. Voilà, là, the flip, il se regarde aussi. Luc, tu es là. Allez, on va te voir. Trop tard. Non, tu es là. Oh. Voilà, Luc Lenain. Il est là, hein? Il est là. Voilà, donc il bascule. And then, so we decided I came here, Luc helped me a lot, and I send information to Laurent, the architect of the project. And we decide to design the polar pod inspired by the fleet. And the truth is less for 2 ways. You know the way to go through. And the draft is 75 meters with 150 tons. And this is polar pod. You know the way that goes through. One of the part of the stability. Very, very stable. I trust the engineer. We take a see, comme le fleet. It's 100 meters long, and then we ballast it, and then move to the vertical position. So it takes about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We'll have 6 wind generators instead of 3. And it will drift like this. This is not a missile. So look at the person who talks, you have an idea about the size. Voilà, vous voyez la personne au bout, you see that. Yeah. It seems like it moves a lot, but it's really stable. Really, yeah, many stories. So this is the length, so to get the draft, 75 meters, is a little bit higher than the Liberté. This is 75 meters. The vertical stability is very important to do the measurements of the sea ice air-sea exchange. It's very stable. Ça c'est important. Mesurer la stabilité verticale pour mesurer les échanges atmosphère-océan. Another chose, one other thing is the engine is a current. We will move with the current very slowly, 1.5 nautical miles. And there is no, we have 6 wind generators, and it's a silent vessel. So we'll have a hydrophone on the structure, and we will do a census of marine life by acoustic. Les militaires sont intéressés. Et juste en français, parce que c'est la marine française. J'ai rencontré le chef d'état-major de la marine, qui est très intéressé. Il m'a dit, on mettra quelque chose, mais on ne vous dira pas ce qu'on entend. Voilà. Les chefs, les sous-marins français. Okay. And the science, there is many more climate, air-sea exchange, biodiversity, census of marine life, plankton, of course, satellite, calibration, validation satellite, especially the colors of the ocean, and anthropic impact, many other things. Si tu veux parler davantage, Luc, tout à l'heure. Luc will get more information about the scientific project. So that's the plan. In green, that's the drift of the drift of the polar pod. And in red, the scientists, they ask us to circle 2 times around Antarctica. It could take 3 years. Nobody will stay more 3 years. We change the crew every 2 months. Every 2 months. With the vessel named Perseverance. That's all it's now here in San Diego. And in red, that's Perseverance trip. To change the crew every 2 months. This is a way to change the crew, 8 people. 8 people we live on board of the polar pod, and we will change the crew every 2 months. With Perseverance, this is the vessel. Change crew. That's a dream. We were thinking to start. Well, takes time, a lot of energy. Résister à la tentation de l'abandon. Persévérance. Et le symbole, c'est le bateau, Persever. This is Perseverance, just a word to introduce you to the vessel Perseverance. You can see it at the harbor here. We are close to the Maritime Museum. And it's 42 meters long, it's a schooner. And the crew is 7. And we can have 20 people maximum on board. That's the bridge. Look at that Airbus or Boeing 747. Now there is so many things. J'ai commencé avec très peu de choses. On allait loin aussi. Now, that's a bridge of Perseverance. We can, you see, hyperconnect. Now we have a lot of antennas. Tu as vu tous les antennes qu'on a, c'est everything. OneWeb, Iridium, Starlink, VSAT. Sometimes nothing works. Especially when you go to the north, in the polar regions. We are far from, il n'y a pas beaucoup de clientèle là. Deployment of vessel, we will do a deployment of this wave glider. C'est Luc va vous en parler. We have the project to deployment of this glider in the Antarctic Circle. We have a lot of instrumentation. It's becoming a real scientific vessel. And we spoke with Luc. He said, at the beginning when we were working on the fleet, the scientists came with big boxes, and now they come with a box like shoes box, and they are very performant. And we have many instrumentation, but it's the beginning of the scientific life of Perseverance. We are waiting for Polar Pod, but we are organizing the most. We try to help scientists to go at sea. The problem, what is caused in the oceanographic science is to go at sea, but that's cost a lot, We spend our time to raising money but perseverance is necessary. Okay, we have a lot of, I don't know what detail that. Météo France, we have automatic weather station. We send information to Météo France in France. What we call the ferry box. We analyze the CO2, oxygen, pH, fluorometry. It's automatic analyze. Ça c'est l'instrument. ADCP, tu parleras tout à l'heure. Right, yeah. You see some ADCP and Scripps. C'est Laurent qui souhaitait ça, il nous expliquera pourquoi. Validation, yeah, CalVal. We do some calibration validation. We will do that with the main institution. Emmanuel Bos is a scientist at the main institution. He will come with us at the Ross Sea and to calibrate the lecture of the satellite. The satellites come and he can read the color. And for example, if there is many phytoplankton, it's green. So you can say to the satellite, whoop, this is green. Okay. And when the satellite turns around the Earth, he knows how to read the green. So he can say where the biological activity, because he knows where the phytoplankton is. We call that calibration validation. Oceanographic pattern, of course. We have people like bioacoustic. Senses of my life by acoustic, we do that. Atmospheric science, yeah. On an appareil, we have a photometer. It's every 15 minutes or every 30 minutes. You look at the sun and back, around and back. And he sends information to the laboratoire optique atmospheric in Lille, in the north of France. And I don't know why, today you get it, no? Maybe not you, we get it, and we receive a message from the scientists, oh, it doesn't work. Yeah, it's because we get it. So, c'est très efficace. Et on amène beaucoup d'informations. Atmospheric, we analyze the air permanently. We can tell you what we perspire. We analyze the air permanently. Hein. L'oxygène, il y a plein de choses. Le dioxyde de carbone, les particules. Ah, ça, les muons. You know what is muon? Oui? Qu'est-ce que c'est les muons? Je ne sais pas, moi. Toi, tu sais? Non? Who knows muon? Ah, what is muon?
It's a heavy electron.
Huh?
It's a heavy electron.
Yes.
Un heavy electron. Un électron très lourd. That's right. And what is interesting? Why is it so interesting?
I mean, I'm not an expert,
So there is no muon expert.
they're heavier, so since their mass is bigger, they carry more energy. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So, voilà. C'est l'Est à Bretagne, qui c'est qui est l'Est à Bretagne ou qui était l'Est à Bretagne? Hein? J'ai vu là. Atmospheric science, oui, photomètre, c'est sur le pays. Bon. So, and the program, that's the program. We start from Nice, was UNOC, International Oceanography Science, organized by the United Nations. And we start from Nice to Ilulissat on the Greenland West Coast. And then we went to the Northwest Passage, and Bering Detroit, Aleutian Island, and San Francisco, and here we are in San Diego. San Diego is not on the map, but something. So here we are. And then we go to Clipperton. Clipperton Island is a small island where we did science 20 years ago, and we are doing again the census of the vegetation, mammals, and everything. And then, after Clipperton, we go to Polynesia and then Christchurch in the end. And the next expedition is, ça va? To Ross Sea. Ross Sea is here, is the only maritime area protected around Antarctica. And this MPA had been negotiated by Obama and Kerry, because the Russian and the Chinese, they don't want MPA around Antarctica. So it has been très bien défendu by Barack Obama and his minister. But 10 years after, what's happened? So the MPA at Ross Sea has been decided in 2016. So we are 26, it will be 10 years after. So the CAMBELAR is an organization responsible of the management of the ocean. They have to produce a report about what's happened 10 years after the MPA. And that's why we have many things to do to do the report, and we hope with this report to push, to defend the idea of MPA around Antarctica. It's very important because there is more and more fishing boats coming from to fish the krill. The krill is a small animal like this, and everybody eats krill, birds, penguins, mammals, and there is more and more fishing boats. You know, there are special boats. They have a pump. They enter on a essaim de krill. Have you said that in English? An essaim de krill. There is thousands and millions, billion of krill, and the vessel enter inside, and they have a pump. and they use krill for salmon, comment on dit, les salmon farm, voilà, les fermes de salmon et de saumon. And special, it's very rich in omega-3, omega-6, so that's a complément alimentaire. There's a huge industry about that. And well, that's the next one, 2000. We will be there in January, we can say, February and March. Well, je vais passer vite. Clipperton Island, we go to Clipperton Island after San Diego, we go to Manzanillo. We're going to start from Manzanillo, three days. And there is many rats on board, and we're going to clean it because they eat birds. Ça c'est la prochaine, Ross Sea and Dumont Sea. We're going to start from Christchurch around January 15 and back to Hobart March 15. And there is 2 people who will be here on board with us. And it's maybe less than 2 months, but we will see. And here that's McMurdo base, the American base, and then the base here. McMurdo. And Scott base is the New Zealand base. And we need a lot of authorization to go there. That's very, ce sont des zones très protégées. Juste un mot pour Perseverance is ice class. So with this vessel we can push. We cannot brace, it's not icebreaker. And it's very strong. The hull is very strong, it's 16 millimeter, aluminum 16 millimeter, and we can push the brush. This is on the west coast of Greenland. Voilà. 16 millimeter. C'est pas mal déjà. Voilà. Donc il est puissant. Ça va s'arrêter. Et la prochaine, I call it as Southern Ocean Four Seasons. Quand j'ai dit Four Seasons à quelqu'un, il m'a dit comme l'hôtel. Il y a une autre qui m'a dit comme la pizza. Because very few vessels, I just told you, the camping only during the summer. And what kind of vessel? We don't have a porapod yet. So I decided to do the job to go there 4 times, at each season. So we're going to start from La Réunion and this Crozet Island, and we will go to the limit of the ice. That's why we can enter in the sea ice, the limit of the sea ice. And we will do that in 4 seasons. I call that Antarctica 4 seasons, but it's better to say Southern Ocean 4 seasons. That's for 2027-28 to 2030. It will be the end of US Ocean Decade, and we will do that for that. That's la dernière, prochaine expédition. Encore. Southern Ocean Exploration, I explained why we go there. Many scientists already are interested, especially by the plankton and what's happened during the summer, during the winter. And we have des spécialistes du plancton et de la génomique. Les génomiques qui sont beaucoup intéressés par ça. Voilà. Low cost, oui, voilà. Enfin, low cost, vous savez. Pas tout à fait. No, if you compare to the oceanographic vessel, which is 100 meter, 100. So if you compare to it's a very low cost. The crew is 7. That's mean 14 people. And low environmental impact. When we have wind, we sail. And on traite les échappements. On traite les échappements avec de l'urée. Qui veut traduire? Ouais, it's very clean. It's very clean engine. Voilà, so, and it's the beginning of the life of perseverance enter in the oceanographic scientific mission. And voilà, pour l'ARPOD, ça c'est le projet un peu plus loin. Voilà, alors merci.
All right, well, thanks everybody. So we'll take some questions now, and maybe while you think of a question, I can tell you a little more about some of those motivation behind, like the development of those kind of vehicles. And I'm not Jean-Louis, so I'm not going to be as funny, but I'll tell a little bit of a story because Jean-Louis mentioned that he came to Scripps to be closer to Flip and some nicer weather, I guess, as well too. Yeah. But that was about 15 years ago, right? Something like that. And I still remember getting an email one day from Jean-Louis, and it was at the time with Laurent and also Nick, wherever he is, we're doing a lot of experiment on Flip. And he was telling me that he wanted to build a Flip to go in the Southern Ocean. And we're all looking at each other saying, pretty much, that's crazy. You don't want to do this. But from a scientific standpoint, we wanted to do this because we were stuck with Flip, which was at the time maybe 50 years old. To give you an idea, typically a research vessel lasts about 20 to 30 years. But because there's only one Flip in the world, we had to maintain it and keep it going and suffer through the comfort of 1960s Russian submarine kind of conditions to do the science that we wanted. Fast forward, 10 years later, that was actually designed, and there was, as opposed to some scribble on the side of a piece of paper in a restaurant, and thankfully it didn't look like Flip. It looked like something that could handle the harsh conditions of the Southern Ocean. The motivation for us also, and I really want people here to understand, there is very little observation in the Southern Ocean. There are some expeditions, that are happening. There are actual research programs, there are research vessels from the US going to Southern Ocean, but it's very limited. It's a very rough environment, very difficult to put moorings. I think at some point there was only a couple surface moorings that were available. There's a few autonomous vehicle drifters and things like that, but we just don't have any observation. So we can't really understand the role of the Southern Ocean in the larger Earth scale system kind of dynamics, and we can't really parameterize if we don't understand the physics that is happening over there. So we just need to get out there. And this has been a wonderful opportunity, both with the Polar Pod and Perseverance now, to put some instruments, smaller boxes, so that we can actually collect some really exciting scientific data and also use it to deploy autonomous vehicle, like the one over here that we can talk about later. There will be one that will be deployed from the Perseverance in the Ross Sea in the January-February timeframe. thinking a bit like, you know, those kind of vessels being a mothership where you can deploy other smaller prototypes. So that was my long introduction. Anybody has any questions about what was discussed?
Well, I understand where this all goes to, that scientific exploration and stuff, but I don't understand is Jean-Louis the initiator of all this? I mean, it's very unusual that somebody who is not a scientist say, oh yeah, I'm doing this, I'm buying a boat, and I'm going. I mean, was it from a university in France or here, or how did this all start?
No, I'm not a scientist. I mean, I've been
No, that's yeah,
but
a different one, yeah.
I know, I follow all the programmation, the publication, scientific publication. I read always information about, and sometimes that we need to go there. You know, no, it's not. I built the Antarctica, this vessel. There is two oceans difficult to access: the Arctic Ocean and the Southern Ocean. To go to the North Arctic Ocean, I built this special vessel, Antarctica. And I'm not a scientist, but the people je suis un entrepreneur. You understand that?
Right.
Voilà.
Okay.
There is difficult to access, there is something to build, and what I like science, and I like pedagogy. You know, I am in the middle of ways to explain. When you go there, you are the people you have been here. Can you speak about that? You know, you have the power to say, and I use that to a lot of pedagogy. That's my like. Ça va? Pédagogie, I would say that. Pédagogie. Pas différent. Ça va la question, la réponse?
Oui, c'est vous qui initiez
Oui,
le
voilà.
truc. Seulement être intéressé et trouver les gens et trouver le fric et tous.
So, but it's also not disconnected from the science because there is a whole science advisory, like science committees, if you like, for each one of the science direction that you were talking about. There's interaction, which I'm part of. There is led by Peter Siegelman. There is for all the biology, the acoustic, all those different ones.
But I mean, as I understand, is he came to you guys
Yes.
and say,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
should we do this?
But do you know why it's exciting? I mean, at least for me and for all the people involved in the project, is that we're at a point where standard approach to developing those research programs do not work anymore. There is this, Jean-Louis mentioned that research vessels are expensive. So to give you an idea, some of the large ocean class vessels that we operate cost about $50,000 a day just to run. So this is kind of like the scale of funding that we're talking about to send a ship down south or wherever. And there's going to be some reluctance for funding agencies to do something a little more exotic, to be a little different, so that, in that case, having a stable platform like this, is not something that is likely to be funded. So, I see this as Jean-Louis, beyond being an entrepreneur, is also like a science enabler. Just like providing us the opportunity to do some science.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
I think Jean-Louis is being too modest because he may be behind this entire initiative, but especially with the French community, he has been able to gather all of the scientists from different oceanographic disciplines, biological oceanography, physical oceanography, atmospheric science, even whatever muons, those heavy electrons, community. And there's been following all of the scientific protocols set by the CNRS, get out of commission, so it's very structured. But you're just making it fun because you're able to go to the North Pole by yourself, you know. But it's very structured, like there's a lot of sound science behind it, and it's a big.
Oh yeah, I
and
understand that, but I mean, obviously he initiated that, the wildfires, that he initiated all that, get the scientists together.
Yeah, exactly.
You know Jules Verne? You know Jules Verne? I am a sort of Jules Verne.
Okay, so I'm not going to keep this microphone for very long, but so how do you get your funding? Is your funding from various governments, private? How do you get funded?
There is two things, speaking about the privilege expedition, so always private sponsor MSN. Yeah, I spend 60% of my energy to raise money. But it takes time, energy, but because we have to explain, it's always a special expedition. It's not a race around the world, as everybody knows, you know. It's not the America Cup. It's something always to have to explain the interest, you know, and it takes time. You know, when at the beginning, I was invited by the ambassador de France at Washington, and I thought, wow, this is very interesting project. And he invited me, the scientific assistant, I don't know comment ça s'appelle, attaché. He organized 10 presentation lecture. I was invited at MIT, Scripps, Georgia Tech, Caltech, NOAA, NASA, and I came back in France with letter of interest. Incredible. I still have those letter of interest of the importante université américaine, and c'est toujours d'actualité because the PowerPoint is not really high. So c'est quelque chose qui est vraiment big, huge interest, as you say, of the international scientific community. Qu'est-ce que tu dis? Elsa is the director general.
So we need money. Obviously.
Je crois que c'était ta question, non?
When do you expect the construction of the polar pod to be completed? Quand est-ce que vous attendez que le polar pod soit terminé d'être construit?
Maybe in 2028.
Donc,
The situation in France is not very stable at this moment. And if the French government will pay for the construction of the polar pod. Myself, I don't receive any money from the government. The polar pod is built with the money of the French government. And well, it was almost ready, it takes time, and now, so the situation is not enthusiastic. Maybe 2028. It takes 2 years to build it.
What's the connection with UCSD?
The connection, well, I guess historically, because 15 years ago, they showed up in San Diego, and my research group is focusing on ocean and atmosphere interaction, and historically, the best platform to collect observation that doesn't have any interference from the platform you're collecting the observation from is a flip, the platform that Jean-Louis showed earlier. There's only one, and it was really old, and it was disappearing, and it actually was retired several years ago, was sent to a scrapyard, but then somebody bought it and is trying to refurbish it in Europe. So stay tuned. But that's it. if you know, the kind of observation we need to, again, better understand the physics of those processes when the ocean and the atmosphere interact, requires for us to measure from a platform that has very few interference with the atmosphere. So like a big research vessel moves up and down. It's kind of like measuring mid speed next to a building. You don't do that, you know, stay away from it. So, you know, those booms and those wings that Jean-Louis showed on the pull-up enables us to stay away from the disturbed air and water. Other than that, we have to use those kind of vehicles, you know, smaller vehicle, or the Perseverance, which is also a smaller vehicle. It's not as big as a research vessel, so there's not as much motion.
Yeah. Quick question: is it possible to visit the Perseverance? On peut visiter le bateau?
It's complicated because we are very limited. I mean, the crew cannot go out with.
On est un peu coincé. by the authority. It's closed too far.
You can see from the
Yeah.
it looks really nice from the strip. And I said the Alliance Française had some like things organized for people to visit. I don't think there's spots available.
What's your plan for getting the polar pod back?
Good question.
Back horizontal, so to speak, instead of vertical, right?
Oh, yeah. You mean when it's vertical, to come horizontal? Yeah, we have a pump. You know when it's horizontal, this is the polar plate. We live inside here, and we turn and see, and then we ballast with the water, sea water inside, and it moves up. And then we have a pump, and the water goes out, and you come back horizontal. That's it. C'était la question? That was the question?
Yeah, that was the question.
So based on the observations that you've been able to do over the years, what do you think are the most significant changes you've seen in the oceans?
The Arctic Ocean is suffering a lot. And I've been there many times. And in 1986, for example, when I went to the North Pole, the average of the thickness was 2 meters of the sea ice. And you understand the North Pole is in the middle of the ocean. The ocean is frozen, covered by the sea ice thickness of 2 meters. And now this very thick sea ice disappeared gradually because the Arctic changed the color. It was white, the ocean covered by the ice, white, and all around by the snow, a long period of time. So when it's dark, I mean the surface of the sea ice is decreasing. So you have open water. The open water catch the sun, and the sea very close is melting, and the ocean is the water is getting warm, so it will be sea ice later. So the sea ice is disappear regularly at the end of the summer. But it's cold always. It's dark during the winter, so the ice will be there. But the sea ice is like this today. 1 meter, and the permanent sea ice disappear gradually. And the Greenland, comment on dit ça? Village, the iceberg, is the Greenland lose a lot of ice. That's it here. But in Antarctica, you have more and more iceberg. I mean, the iceberg come from, la calotte polaire, the ice Antarctica, the South Pole, the Antarctica is big as United States and Mexico combined in surface. And you cover with 2.5 kilometers of ice. 70% of the water is frozen in Antarctica. So the ice moves like glaciers, go down, 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 and when arrive on the ocean, it's floating, and we call that platform ice shelf. Ice shelf. The ice shelf move, and then it breaks. Oh, iceberg. What's happened now? The elevation of the sea level is increasing. The average of the sea level is increasing every year 3.5 millimeter. Do that, 3.5 millimeter every year. So the elevation of the ocean is increasing, and the temperature is increasing too. So there is an erosion through the platform of the glass, and it produces more and more icebergs. The climate change is a reality. There is nobody here.
Walter Monk used FLIP on its first expedition for waves across the Pacific that followed a family of waves from Antarctica to Alaska. And because of that expedition, surfers today know when and where to go to find the perfect wave. He was very interested in the Ross Sea, and I think only submittal he ever made for a grant that was denied was to study the Ross Sea. He would be extremely pleased to know what you're doing and to support your project.
Thank you very much.
Tout d'abord, merci pour votre présentation, Jean-Luc. So my question is, from what I understood, the polar pod is unpowered engine, so it goes with the current. But what if it takes an unexpected or unwanted trajectory? How do you plan to bring it back into its original plan? Yeah.
Well, we have on the 2 wings.
On the 2 wings, we have les voiles, sails, and we put sails on one side, on the other side. Just in case icebergs, But we move very slowly, and we have radars and say, well, maybe we have to change the road, but we will do that with the wind.
Merci.
We navigate with the wind, yeah.
So where the polar pod will be built? Où vous allez construire le polar pod?
We plan to build it in Brittany, à Concarneau, le chantier de Périllon. But we don't know when. If you have an idea, I'm ready to change. If somebody wants to build this special Jules Verne vessel, I'm ready to talk with. The plan, the calculation, everything is done, very precise, I think. And ready to change the country. I will be very happy if you find somebody here ready, because it could take times now in France.
So the people that will build it are people that are specialized in boats, building, or?
You mean a yard specialized in building boats?
Yeah.
No. It's very simple. It's not the boat. I mean, it's pipe, and it's very simple, not complicated.
Actually, I have a question. How close from the continent do you think you will be able to get?
From the continent, Antarctica?
Yes.
We will drift in circumpolar current between 50 and 55,000. Far from the coast, the shore, and well, that's where the wind is strong.
More questions?
I think up here. Oh, just quickly, the Furious 50s, what does that mean?
Furious 50s, that means the wind is furious. The wind is strong always. That's a place where the Furious 50s. Have you heard about it? 50e position. It's a westerly wind coming from the west, and the turnaround in Torque. Between the stronger is between 50 and 55,000. The latitude.
Yeah, it's a French thing, so it's, yeah.
The polar pod is visible, not the polar pod yet, but if you want to support the polar pod, and you can see at the San Diego Maritime Museum the Perseverance from outside, but you can as well support their research by coming and visit the Perseverance. We are sold out on Saturday the 11th. However, there's a new date on the Tuesday the 14th. So if you want to sign up, and 100% of your donation is tax deductible and will go directly for the research of Jean-Louis and all the scientific ship. So thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you have done for the research. We would like to know, this young man would like to know if you can explain more what this is for, this instrument that you brought.
Thank you. All right. So I call this a toy with my kids, but it's maybe like a grown-up toy. This is called a wave glider. Just move this left to right. So it's an autonomous vehicle that we launch, and we'll be launching from. Well, I'll start talking. So I mentioned earlier, when we want to study the ocean, interaction between the ocean and the atmosphere, you don't want to be next to a big building or a big ship. So you want to measure things with as little interference as you can with the atmosphere, right? Because you don't want to disturb the flow of what you're trying to sample. The other issue is that when you're on a ship, you're trying, for example, to measure weight. The ship is going to go up and down. There's a lot of heave that you have to deal with. So we wanted to have, and at the time, Flip was also getting retired, so we didn't really have any ways to measure things close to the ocean surface. So we came up, or actually a company developed a vehicle called the Wave Gliders, which is a hint on how it works in Lenain. And it's designed to harness, so it's a vehicle that is designed to remain at the surface. So there's two components. There is a surface float here, and there is another component here that has those fin-looking things. And the whole vehicle is designed around harnessing the energy of the wave for propulsion. So it's a very simple concept, which is extremely efficient. One of the issues we have when we deploy instrument at sea, small instrument, is battery power. We want to be able to collect data for a long period of time, and we want to be able to get propulsion, which use a lot of power and fuel. In that case, we harness the energy of the wave by collecting wave motion, if you like. So there is two components. There is a component at the surface here that remains at the surface. There is a glider component here that has a bunch of fins. And in between, you don't see it here, there is an umbilical cable. So they're all connected together. Just put this down so it's easier. So they're connected together when they're deployed. So imagine you put this in the ocean. You have the float here that is at the surface of the ocean. You have an umbilical that connects to the glider, right? So the glider here, under the action of the wave, is
if the float goes up because the wave gets to a crest, it's going to pull the propulsion, the glider, up, like this, right? So the fins are going to point up. Then when you get into the trough, the glider system, like the underwater component, is going to go down. So the fins are going to go down, right? So the fins are going to go this way. You know, when it goes into the crest of the wave, it goes like this. When it goes in the trough, it goes like this. And if you do this for a lot of waves, you have flippers. So it's effectively converting the vertical displacement into horizontal momentum. So it's terribly inefficient. You take a tiny fraction of the wave energy, but it is sufficient for us to get propulsion. So we get, 1 to 2 knots, which is nothing over the course of a day. But when we do deployment with Laurent, 1 to 2 knots over the course of 2 weeks is a very long distance. It also means that we don't need fuel, we don't need battery for propulsion. We do have solar panels, so we can we can power our instrumentation. And that's the kind of things that we typically use. There is meteorological station, there is measurements about the temperature of the ocean, the atmosphere. It's kind of a Christmas tree of everything we can stick on the wave gliders effectively with our currents and so forth. And we can, when we're done here, you guys can come over and you can talk to Laurent, myself, and some of the people from the lab that will show you this vehicle.
Is that the real size or is this a model?
This is a real one. This was in the water a week ago. Yeah, we recovered it on Monday. Yeah. Yeah, so they spent 2 weeks offshore, San Diego, and was just recovered and we operate a large fleet of those vehicles, so we can, again, this idea of not having enough observation, we can have like a swarm, we can behave and collect data together. So for us, the opportunity of having the perseverance in those kind of very remote locations, deploy those kind of vehicles is really fun.
So you mentioned that you use solar panels to power all the instruments that are collecting all the data from both the atmosphere and the ocean.
Yeah.
But in the Southern Ocean, there might not always be solar energy because there's a lot of clouds and storms, and also it's just like dark there sometimes. So how would you power these instruments?
That's an excellent question. This is actually a project funded by NSF with Lenain, where you also believe a little bit about it? Yeah.
Thanks for this nice rendition.
I know.
So as you said, there might not be enough energy to power those. So Luke's group, I think like Evan, has been heavily involved in this project that we're going to develop some wind turbine so that we can harness the wind to get a few watts that may be sufficient. And then we're going to explore some other form of coating so that the instruments don't freeze. Because there's actually been a few deployments in the Southern Ocean with wave gliders made by other groups, but they kind of failed after 2 days. The instrument was frozen, basically it was a disaster. So we're going to try to innovate a bit. So coating and wind propulsion, and I think Jean-Louis boat, the Perseverance, is going to be a great test bed for this instrument. And tying it back to the scientific question, if we can develop a fleet of autonomous vehicles that, again, this can be considered low cost, or it may not, but I say it's low cost. And so we can deploy a bunch of them in the Southern Ocean, and then get data at, as you said, during the 4 seasons, especially during winter, between the atmosphere and the ocean. Ultimately, the goal is to understand better how the Southern Ocean transfers heat between to the atmosphere, or maybe how it absorbs carbon, and to kind of understand this lungs of our planet. So far I think people are using all sorts of funky instruments. People have been very creative. Like I can tell by experience, I've been involved in a project where we have elephant seals in the Southern Ocean to collect data for us. But that's fun, they're great swimmers, but you can't really tell them where to go. This is our hope, basically, the next generation of colorful wave glider.
right? When you think about a light bulb, I mean, now there's LEDs, you know, and things like that, so it's like, but back in my days, you know, like a 60-watt, you know, light bulb was not that much. And for this one, 20 watts, yeah. And for the one we deployed in the Southern Ocean, we're looking at what, like 8 watts? Yeah. So you know, upstream, we really try to just minimize as much as we can the power consumption, which is not trivial.
Is it collecting data or is it sending data?
Good question. Yeah. So there's it's connected to Iridium, so satellite communication. So we constantly, like every, you know, there's a duty cycle, but every 15 minutes or less, we get data back, and we can also drive it remotely. So from the comfort of our office or home, we can get visibility here. And so it's really a very efficient way to do that. It also enables us to take some risk of losing the equipment because we get a lot of data back, which is really our goal.
What kind of sounds do you collect besides whales, dolphins?
The sound?
Yeah.
From, yes, they are. Yeah, we have a small triangle that is 50 meters and catch a sound of the mouse. No, not the engine, because it's just 50 meters.
Oh, you're towing?
Yeah, yeah. And we have electric cable, but the scientists in the 12, he said that yeah.
So the fish don't
All right. Well, one last question.
Well, I have a different question about, because it's like you are checking the krill. So as many, as you said, that the fish farms are using that. But I mean, as that is the lowest part of the food chain, we definitely don't want to lose the krill. So how bad is the situation now for the krill right now?
It's not so bad, but you have the Cameron institution, but the program is to have an idea about the krill only, and they deliver, they permit the fish permit, yeah. So far, it's not too bad. But the question is, they don't have to fish close to the Antarctica, because in November, December, January, all the species, penguins, seal, everybody comes here. There is very few places where they can come on land. And there is thousands of penguins and seal, they go to the sea to eat and back to feed the baby. And if you fish too much, they have enough food for the baby. But so far, c'est très important de surveiller.
We have one last question from the gentleman.
What's inside the big pod on the
The big what?
The big pod on the
On
the screen.
Oh, so this is where people live. So this is where you have all the cabins,
8 people.
the engine, the labs, you know, everything. So there is nothing. There is bedrooms, galley.
So there isn't anything under?
There is nothing under. I mean, there is a ballast system that Jean-Louis talked about, but everything is above the water, also for safety.
Thank you.
All right, so.
I understand that there
of their time. We thank the Scripps Institute of Oceanography for welcoming us. You're welcome to check on the website of the Alliance. If you don't or you can't go for a full evening, you can also donate to support their mission. Thank you so much.